This episode can just be summed up in one word. Why? Just why? 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 Sorry, I'm getting carried away here. So, in the forest of the night. I'm going to start off with the positives here. Most of the main cast is good. Peter Capaldi is brilliant as always. And his interaction with Maeve, played by Abigail Ames, I think it's pronounced, is just brilliant. Especially in the pre-title sequence where he just brush it when she says she's lost. He just points in a random direction and says it's that way without even asking where she wants to go. And then opens the door again. When I was thinking, okay, he's going to ask where she wants to go, and then just realises there's a forest. And again, when Clara wants to know who's missing, he just points to her and says, do you have a name? He's so patronising towards kids, and that's just, I love that. Just so patronising. Clara, played by Jenna Coleman, as always, is good, and Danny, played by Samuel Anderson, is good, and annoyingly, every time he hasn't had many big roles in this series, but this one is good, and he does a great job, especially with what he's given. And Maeve, played by Abigail Ames, she does a good job, and she's one of the good child actors of the episode, and the only good kid that I could bear. Talk more about that later. And Jenny Hill made a cameo as a news presenter. No Trinity Wells though. Don't know why. Frank Cottrell Boyce wrote the episode. Yeah, he did okay. But something that his big selling points that everybody was saying, he didn't do well. He was supposed to be good at writing children parts, but this episode, he only wrote one child good and everyone else was just horrible. Again, I'll talk about that in a minute. And Cherie Folskin directed the episode, and she did a great job. I really got the sense of how vast the forest was and what they've got to deal with. But again, this episode reminded me of Series 1, Episode 4 of Torchwood Small Worlds, with the girl being able to communicate with something or an alien that everyone else can't hear. Anyway, also, the visuals are amazing. That's the main selling point of the episodes. The visuals are amazing. Now on to the negatives. The children, the Year 8 gifted and talented, which I think they should change their name to Year 8 stupidly annoying and unbearable. They're just, why were they there? They were only there for a school trip, and then they could have been sent home, and how about they could have been sent home with their parents, and Courtney could have been there and kept her there, because they might as well have had Courtney there, because the other kids were just annoying and didn't bring anything to the plot. They were just there to be annoying, and that's it. One of them has has anger issues. That goes nowhere. And for some reason they always want to take a selfie. And one of them, yes, she realises there's a red ring, but that just gets brushed aside by the doctor. And these kids were just too annoying, and I honestly couldn't remember their names, and I'll tell you how annoying they were. I knew as soon as I saw that bit in the Next Time trailer, with that guy in that moaned about being a team, that's when I knew I was going to hate them. Other things, the trees didn't really cause much damage, yet I know they were there to protect them, but it just grew in between their houses and no structural damage apart from Nelson's column, but that didn't cause any casualties. That was just full there. It didn't block them off from the TARDIS, it just fell down. Also, Those pixie things, what were they? They're just floaty orange dots. It's not really confirmed what they are, they're just there. And another thing, if you're not going to have a bad guy, those wolves were, granted they could have been scared off by a tiger, but how did they manage to jump that fence? And the tiger. I watched a tiger documentary afterwards on YouTube to see if they could be scared off by a flashlight, but no, that makes them more annoyed. So theoretically, Danny should have been killed, but he didn't, and they're just run off and forgotten about. Same with the government people who want to create a carefully controlled forest fire. Who's ever heard of a carefully controlled forest fire? But my highlight of the episode has to be that bit where Clara wants the Doctor to go and leave the planet to die, and he says, I can't, it's my planet too. So he's basically agreeing with what Clara said at the end of Kill the Moon, which is great, and it shows some character development. But then, that was the best scene in the episode, and you know how bad it is. It's the best scene of the episode. One scene later, the Doctor realises something and goes back. He doesn't spend time away, so it looks like they're going to die like it did in Fires of Pompeii. He realises it as soon as he leaves. Why? As I said, Frank Cottrell Boyce, the writer, is great at writing children, and he just failed in this episode. Only Maeve was really bearable, and she, again, why did you have to have a save the trees message? We get it, but you didn't have to punch. It was like, you could have done it a bit more subtly, but instead you just punched us in the face and said, save the trees. This is a horrible episode, and overall, I'm giving this episode a 4 out of 10. It's the weakest episode of Series 8, and this is worse than The Caretaker. Right, I'll see you next week for a better episode, hopefully, which is the series finale, part 1, Dark Water. Now I'm going to watch a good episode of Doctor Who. See you next time.